Hello, 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 guys. Welcome back to Scaling Experts. And today we're going to be doing a reaction video because I know you guys love that. Basically, looking through the eyes of a European market expert in terms of marketing and sales, especially for IT businesses. And through these, yeah, scaling experts like Dan Martell, for example, which we have, uh, which was like suggested here by YouTube. And I've been following this guy for quite a while, and I must admit he is quite motivational. I mean, he knows how to cut his videos, and he knows how to motivate and all that kind of thing. And he's not the only one. I mean, there's a bunch of other channels that I constantly follow up because nobody's perfect and everybody can improve his skills. But really, when it comes down to reality, reality check, you know what I mean? So that's very important from time to time. And also, and to throw a different angle, on what somebody's saying who's mainly at home, and most of these channels and very successful people are based in the US. So basically, other markets, things sometimes move and work quite differently. So when you're not from the US, not working within the US market because of the time difference, or maybe you're like, living in Southeast Asia, or like Australia or whatever, or maybe you're simply not like that great of an English speaker, or, it's just your focus, your network, everything, your skill set, everything is based on a totally different market. Let's say within Europe, in Europe, you have the most amount of languages per square feet, I think, and cultural differences and whatnot, because it's one of the oldest continents, and it's really scattered, And I mean, what I mean with scattered is like the opportunities, Um, what might work in Germany does not work the same way in Switzerland or in Austria or in Slovakia or in Czech Republic or in Poland or whatever, So there's not only like language barriers are sometimes really high still, in Southern European countries and Eastern European countries and Western European countries, as well as Northern European countries. Not every Danish or Swedish knows English perfectly. That's just a myth, I know that because my neighbors are totally fans of Denmark, and like up there like on a regular basis, and they keep telling me like not everybody here up there like speaks fluent English, like, you know that's kind of like a myth. And and the same with Holland, not everybody in Holland is fluent English. But also the cultural differences, where, in the US, you can, no problem to come straight to the point, do you want to buy this or not? If you have that approach, let's say in some Eastern European countries or some Southern European countries, this prospect, this potential client will never contact you again because they're just like scared off, like, oh my God, this guy's so pushy. And so there's a ton of differences. So long story short, let's look at this because this is like, three steps, three steps, you will make $1 million with AI starting from zero. These videos, like everybody's clicking it, and 67,000 people. This is like, this video is like 1 day old, and 67,000 people have already watched this video. So it's 67,000 videos. All they need, 67,000 people. All they need to do now is three steps, and then they're going to be a millionaire with AI. We have like roughly like probably another 30 are going to be watching this. So we have 100,000 new millionaires in a very short period of time. Am I right? You know, so if you really think about this, these video titles, they seem to work and people click it like fucking dummy shit, But is it really realistic? You know, uh, you know, this is like a channel with like a million, 2 million followers. Hundreds of thousands of people are watching these kind of videos. If everybody is doing what he's saying, or maybe it's even just half of the people, the it's not going to work just by by the fact that everybody would is doing it, because the things that work are very often work because nobody else is seeing it or doing it. First of all, seeing it, spotting the opportunity in the market, and secondly, doing it, actually coming into the doing and taking the risk and iterate and fail and improve and learn from it and all this kind of stuff. So that's something to consider. I know the market is big, yeah, but I've heard that many times before. You know, the market is endless. No, no market is endless. No market is endless. Yeah, that's nonsense. Okay, let's look at the video actually, and I will give you guys some feedback, because I've been following this guy and I have the right to give some reality check here, because I spent like 100 hours of my lifetime already like consuming his videos. Okay, there you go. Let's go, baby.
Imagine being able
Obviously,
to
want to
build an
skip
app
that
with your
ad.
name on it.
Whatever. Okay.
Just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Focus.
People. Picking a boring market is like taking everybody else. If you just focus for the next 20 minutes, I'll give you a simple 3-step blueprint that will make you $1 million with AI from scratch. Or you could go get distracted, go back to listening to yet another podcast and wonder why you're not making progress in your life. It's your call. I'm Dan Martell. I became a cash millionaire at 27 years old, and since then I've helped thousands of founders make millions for themselves through software and AI. And what I've discovered is that making $1 million with AI is actually easier than it looks. All you need is a process. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact systems we use to make millions with AI without writing a single line of code. So let's get into it. Step number 1, you have to target a boring market. If you go after a boring industry, competition is lower, margins are often way higher, the adoption is easier because they are looking at you as the expert, they're going to fight with you, and the opportunity is massive. It's kind of like driving a car down a hill. If the road is busy, you can't drive very fast, so you have to pass a bunch of people. Picking a boring market is like taking everybody else off the road so you can go faster. Now, if you're wondering how do you find your boring market, just follow these 3 steps. The first step, you have to do some market research. You have to look at where you want to sell to. If you want to sell to a certain city, you go into ChatGPT and say, I want to do market research on this city, and I want to find boring businesses or boring industries that are growing that I can use AI to automate and do a deep research project. And you want to tell it, find the industries that can easily pay for something between $5,000 to $10,000 to set up AI automation. That's what you're selling. You're selling AI automation to a boring business in your market that can easily pay $5,000 to $10,000. Have it do that research and build that list. Trade businesses or law firms or dental or medical, things that don't have a lot of AI adoption. Farming could be one. It just may not be growing, but there could be a segment within farming that's growing, and that's what the AI will find. So just pick one. The second part
people
is
from around the world are consuming this kind of stuff, and if they are applying it, they need to apply it to their own market. They cannot say, okay, I take this and go to the US and I'm doing it. So no, I have to apply it to my own market, obviously. And everything that revolves around medicine is really if you're trying to sell somebody to something to dentists or medicine industry in general, you have this huge fear of okay, one of the most protected data sets are patient data. Your patients, like people who have some medical condition, and then they go to the doctor. That all that kind of data that is collected there is not meant to leave certain databases and stuff like that. Obviously, the insurances and I'm sure they're doing their thing. So, but not like a little service provider like you or you know what I mean. So this is like a huge topic with the entire medical industry. It might be boring, I don't know, but and there might be some money or whatever, but you know and this is not just for the medical industry, this is like for many other industries as well. And you know not every country, not every culture is that open-minded towards AI like in the US. I'm sure in the US it's like you want to do some AI automation, you're gonna save a bunch of money or make a bunch of money. Yeah, sure, sure. They don't even think any further, maybe. They're really, there's a huge amount of euphoria. Like, I don't know how to say the English word for that, but, they don't think so much. They, they, they more do things. They don't think so deeply, like what could happen and everything. But there's this thing, like, especially for the German market, like this word, like this, where it's like a English word, like German Angst. Yeah. So it's like the German fear. It's actually a term known in the entire world. I just had like a bunch of a workshop yesterday, and there were like different people from different parts of the planet, and they all knew the German Angst term. But that's just an example. Like, there's others that are even more conservative, maybe the Swiss or the Austrians, or other countries. And they're not so like, yeah, yeah, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. They're scared, to do something wrong, to break one of the 1 trillion rules that the EU has like applied to us or whatever. So there's a lot of things. Yeah. Regulations are much, much tighter and bigger and more, and so on and so on. So it's not so easy, you know. It's not so easy, especially medicals. It's just like, I would say, like, really superficial fluff a little bit, you know.
Do some pain point research. Figure out within that business, where is the biggest pain point? Go read the reviews, go read about the industry, talk to the businesses. Ask them when it comes to bottlenecks in your business that you thought maybe AI can solve something for me, have them tell you where the opportunity is. You'd be surprised if you call up saying, hey, I'm just doing some market
Okay,
research. I'd
that's a
love to get
really
your
good
advice. They'd be
process.
like,
So
all right, what are
obviously
your
pinpoint
questions? At the
analysis,
end
and
of
then
it, they
you
go, why are you asking me these
with
questions? And you say,
existing
well, I do
solutions,
AI
because you're
automation to
not gonna
help
be.
businesses like yours solve
He's
these
not saying
problems. And
like
they
do your
go,
own
well, why don't you
thing,
just come in and do that for me?
program your thing from
See
scratch
how
or
asking
whatever,
for
but
advice
he's
can get
just
you a
like saying,
customer?
okay,
And the
map,
third step is then you have to do some
fill the
technology
gap,
research,
be the gap
meaning once
filler
you've mapped
between
each
two
pain
worlds
point
that
in regards to
basically
like
already
maybe it's
exist. One
scheduling or
world
data
has the pain,
entry or
and the other
lead
world has a
scoring, maybe
solution.
it's data
So
monitoring.
it's pretty
You want to
much
go
like
find the
a real estate
AI
agent.
first solutions that
One
exist in the
world is
market that you
searching
can
for a
map
nice
to those
apartment, the other
problems.
world
If you
has to
want to
offer
help
a
them
nice
with their
apartment. He's
data, you
just
might look at
the
precision.co, which is a data
intermediary in
platform,
between.
or hellofrank.ai,
So
which
this is
helps them with
why, like,
financial.
if you're a successful real estate agent, you have a really, really little infrastructure cost, or like, friction, building things from scratch or whatever. You just like, you just um like a trader, basically. And so that's a really good part, and I think that's a really solid advice to do that. And one thing I would like to say is also, like, he got it, like, okay, calling up decision makers, because you need to call up the decision makers because they are the ones who make the decision and have the budget. And not always. It's more complicated with bigger companies, because not all the CEOs can really decide. With the bigger companies, there's a lot of other stakeholders who actually have something to say. Um, Quite often, like, the CEO is nothing else but just the operative chief of operation, kind of.
Modeling.
But the
For example,
actual, like,
maybe
budget
you do the
holders are like
research and
other
realize
people,
that
to
like some
stakeholders
kind
you
of
would
boring
never
trade like
somehow
plumbing
find
is the
in
market you want to
LinkedIn
go and
group.
like serve.
It's a
And
kind of
then you
like
find
hidden
out
somewhere
that
as
a lot of these
investors, or
plumbers
as
are so
part of a
busy
bigger
doing the
holding or
plumbing, they don't have
whatever,
time to answer.
or group. But with the smaller, yes, but with the smaller, also the customer lifetime value is a lot smaller. So, you know, there's some trade-off. I would rather, well, it's not really my thing. I would rather not go for the too small businesses, like, the one-man show dentist or whatever. He might be the single decision maker, but he may also ask his wife. So never underestimate how many more people there might be that are part of the decision-making process, because a lot of people, they just don't make their own decisions all the time. You know, most people, they always consult some other people, and it's not always easy to figure out who that is. You know, you need to proactively ask them within the process of sales. You know, if you have like you know, is there any other decision makers and so on, and lie. They don't tell you right away that he doesn't do any decisions about his life or something. You know what I mean? Or his best friend or his uncle or whatever. You know, or his father when you have like a younger person. And so it's not always that easy, but it's a very much smaller lifetime value. And he says something like, okay, selling solutions between 5 and 10K easily, he says. I don't know. Maybe in the US, maybe I mean maybe in Singapore, you know, or Dubai or whatever, but in Germany, in Europe, in most countries in Europe, where we're all like kind of like shaped by crisis and so on, it's not that easy for like a mid-sized or small, even small or mid-sized business to sell something for 5 to 10K. It's not that straightforward. We've been having some automation AI calls lately, a bunch, to fairly big companies like e-shops that made like 100 million euros or Swiss francs per year. So it's not like a super small company, like companies with 20, 50 people, um, chunk of turnover, established businesses. And we've been trying to sell a workshop just for a couple of grand, like 1, 2, 3,000 euros. And they said, well, we need to think about it. We don't have budget this year. We need to wait until next year. You know, it's now November 2025. So it, there's, it is not like, okay, we are convinced you solved the pain and it's only 5 to 10 grand. Let's do it right away. That I can imagine. I don't know for sure because I don't know too little about the US, but it might be in the US. It might be more like a cultural thing. They instantly make decisions and do things. But here in Europe, it's pretty much like, oh, we need to wait and this and that, and we have only a certain budget for this year, and we need to wait until next year or next month or whatever, next quarter or the next 2 quarters, because we are just rebuilding our e-shop, and that's has a priority number one. There's all sorts of things, um, like you need to cope with and go through until finally somebody makes a decision to buy something for like 1, 2, or 3,000 euros. Yeah, we're not even in the threshold 5 to 10K yet. You might have already spent for that lead like a thousand bucks. Yeah. So it is not that easy. Like, you know, the title, you know, this is why everybody clicks on it, and that's probably the most important thing for this guy, you know. But it's not like 3 steps will make you 1 million bucks. Yeah. It's just like, you know, these kind of promises, they sometimes they really start to piss me off, you know, because they suck people into these videos and then they spend time, and he said it at the beginning, yet another podcast. Do this and don't watch yet another podcast. But this is one of these podcasts, okay? A super intense, promising headline, and everybody clicks on it. And I would bet with you $1,000, not even 1% of the people who are watching this video are gonna make this 1 million bucks. Not even 1%. And it's just this constant spinning content with these really flashy headlines, and people just spend their time watching this trash. Sometimes trash, you know, sometimes it's okay, sometimes there's good things in it, but overall, you watch 100% of these things, and maybe 20%, 10% of it is really valuable, and then it keeps repeating itself constantly, just from a slightly different angle. Why? Because these are the type of headers and thumbnails that make the most clicks, and it's all about the fucking clicks. Yeah. So it's I don't know. I don't know where this is going. And I've been on YouTube for now since 2008 or something. And so like 20 years almost or something, you know, from the very beginning, before it was Google even, I posted some YouTube videos, and it's going to really, really like intense, hectic like just like flashy, 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 like trend. And it's really sad because YouTube used to be or is still like one of the, the biggest alternative medias and the best alternative media platforms out there. I mean, there's others as well, but uh, you get sometimes like content on YouTube you will never see on mainstream media ever. It's really cool, but when it comes to making money, business, and so on, which is like a really serious topic, entrepreneurship is substantial for our society. And you get all these flashy, flashy, flashy things, and this is kind of like. I'm emotionally concerned, especially for very young people, wasting a lot of time with all this nonsense. I had, as I said, like yesterday, an on-site workshop with a bunch of really young students, like 20, 25 years old, and they were really top smart, and they even saw that. Yeah, but a lot of people might not see that, and that just wastes a lot of time. So yeah.
Answer phone calls. So missed calls is the pain point. And they're losing jobs because nobody's answering the call because they're busy. You can find a tool that can answer calls 24 hours a day, like a receptionist, and it's all automated using a tool. So check out youratlas.com. It does this. It literally takes all the inbound calls, can answer questions, support questions, our operations questions, everything that you just point to a document, and it can even take that sales call, qualify them, sell them into buying from you, and then get that
This is a
deal put in the
very
calendar
important
for
point.
your
We made
customer.
a video
And just
lately
like that,
about
you could have
exactly
sold a
this
plumbing
point because
company a
I've got
$5,000 to
a bunch of
$10,000
software
license for the
clients,
software you set up that's making
software
them money,
developers who kind
and
of
they'll
like,
pay you
in
every
that
month for that.
area,
You can go to the
okay, between
website, test it out for
freelancer and
yourself,
having a
and see
bunch of
all the
people, maybe
customers
three,
that are
four, five
currently doing
people or
this.
something,
This
making
exists
half a
today. You can
million
make a
up to
million,
like three
no
quarters
problem.
of a
You
million,
want to get
usually just
paid to
below a million or
implement the
something.
AI
And there's a
tool for the
bunch of these
business owner,
guys,
set it up and
and some
manage
of
it and
them are
get
my
paid every
clients
month.
in Germany,
You don't actually have to build
and
the
it's like,
technology. That is the number one thing that
they're
holds
making
people
like
back. They think they
huge,
actually have to understand how
in
to build
Germany, for
this stuff.
example, like
You
there's
don't.
lots of
When
like
I look
you need
back
to
and
pay
I'm
taxes in advance,
24 and I
and you have
just
got
failed
the
twice, it
VAT
wasn't till
in
I
advance
shifted from trying to
payments, and
build cool things for
it's,
my friends
if you
to
turn it
actually going
around,
after a
like if
boring
you have like
market, which was
turnover
enterprise
of like half
software,
a million, and
where
then
I
it comes to
finally found
200,000,
traction. In my
there's another
first
rule
year,
that you
I
need
made
to pay
almost $1
even
million.
more taxes in
But
advance and
finding a
things like
boring
that. So the
market
more
alone
you
won't
earn
make
on
you a million.
paper,
To do that,
the
you
more
have to
things you
master
have
this
to
next step.
consider, and the more
Step number
expensive the
2,
business gets,
set your gross
basically, and more
margins.
complex, just
In
because of all
business,
these legislations
revenue
we
is
have, the
vanity.
rules and the tax rules and
Margin is for
everything
your
in Germany
sanity.
or Europe especially, but especially Germany is one of the most complex tax law that in the entire world on purpose. Um, and but his gross margin is basically in some cases like 10 or 15%. So even if he's making like 50, 60K a month, his leftover is his profit basically, or his margin basically, his gross margin, like 5 or 6K a month. How much can he do with 5 or 6K a month? You barely can, afford like a tiny office and maybe a car or something like that. So this is like really, I must say, like this is a really, really, really important point that, especially in this whole IT software industry, like where you like resell basically your people that do some work on some project and things that is quite a point, big, 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 big point, in this entire calculation. And sometimes you need like huge amounts of capital to uh, prepay the people you're gonna be then selling into a project with a bigger client or something. It's like 4 or 5 people with a mid-sized project. you might have to prepay a couple of $100,000 even, because a senior developer is like, 10K a month or even more sometimes. So, wow, yeah, that's the point. Let's see what he has got to say with this. Mhm.
Trust me, if you make a million, but it costs you 500,000 to make it, you didn't make a million, you made 500,000. Most people brag about the top line. I want to know what you took home. I want to know what was left over. So for example, if it costs you $1 to make coffee and you sell it for $5, that means you have a margin of $4. That's 80% margin. That's awesome. So essentially you want to make sure you scale your AI business so that your margins stay well over 80%, even 90%. If you're doing most of the work and the AI is doing all the heavy lifting, then your job is to just find customers, sell them, and set them up. If you do that, then all the money you make is yours to keep. And with AI, this has never been easier. Every back office aspect of your business can be automated through AI. It's like my buddy who owned a restaurant. Everybody thought he was crushing it. Super busy place, super in demand, hard to get a reservation. I think he was doing like 5 million in revenue. But after the end of the year, he came to me to talk to me because he had some issues around his people. And when I looked into his numbers, I found out he was only making 50,000 take home for himself. Why? He didn't fight for the margin. He let the chef add stuff to the menu and didn't price it right, so he wasn't making any money. He had a bunch of food cost waste. He had a bunch of staff turnover. He had people stealing from him. Those are all things that you can avoid by making sure the margins are there to have the profit to pay people right, to incentivize them, to train them properly, so that your business actually makes you money. So here's how you protect your margins. The first thing is you have to set your price floor. Essentially, you want to set the price and then give a multiple for how much more you charge from what it costs you.
Hello,
So if your
Frank.
delivery cost is $2,000 in like fixed cost and you want to make 80%, then you're gonna have to multiply that by 5x. That'll get you your 80% margin. So 2,000 cost, 10,000 is your
Hello,
price.
Frank.
If you always force yourself to do that, it's
Hello,
impossible for you
Frankenstein.
not to
I don't
make
know.
money.
I don't know.
Second is you want to
Is it a
productize
tool
your
that
offer.
you,
Selling custom
like you, Dan,
implementations every time
developed?
will drive
Is
you
it your
freaking
own
nuts.
SaaS?
Using AI, you can actually ask it,
Because
hey,
I
here's
must
my offer,
assume that
productize
the
it.
tools
How do I
he's
create one kind of
suggesting,
automation?
he's
Repeat the
probably
sales
owns
conversation,
himself,
repeat the
because that's
delivery,
his basically
repeat the
that's
whole
how he
thing
makes
where
$100
it's
million
set it and
a year or
forget it,
something.
copy, paste.
He's got the
That way you're
ownership
not
of
doing
like
custom
50
builds.
different
That will 100%
SaaS
eat in your
companies.
margins. The third is
So
you have to
hello,
make sure that
Frank.
you scope the outcome. There's nothing that will kill your margins,
especially for a
eat
German,
into your efforts, than having a
that's
customer
quite
keep
a
asking
name
for more,
for
for
an AI
more,
tool
for
that
more, that you never get
basically
paid for. And that usually happens to the nicest people out there because they
checks your
can't say no.
finances
I want
and
you to be
makes
very
on
clear
which
what the
basis you're
scope
gonna
of that
be
transaction
making
looks like. And if a customer
substantial
starts to
vital
ask for
business
more, you
critical
stop them.
decisions.
You sit them
Yeah.
down and you say, I appreciate that you want that
Hello,
added as well.
Frank.
Here's what we agreed
That's
to. If you want,
that's
we can
so
talk about a
American,
change order and it's going to have a
I
fee
don't know
associated
if
to
a
it. But
German
if you're
would
good, we can
ever
finish this work for now.
dare
That's how we run a great
to
business
have
with
like a
great
risk
margins. The fourth
financial
and
risk
last is you
analysis
have to
tool,
monitor the margins. It's too
AI
easy,
based,
especially as your team grows,
bring
for
that to the
people to
market
start
and
doing
call it
things and
Hello
having
Frank.
costs and like paying for external
I don't know. I
contractors,
don't know,
and
man.
nobody pays attention
So
to this. So what's
if I would
cool is
try
you
to
can
sell
use
Hello
AI
Frank in
tools like
Germany or Switzerland,
HelloFrank.ai to
Austria,
constantly monitor your
or
margins and
Scandinavia or
actually
whatever,
alert you if they go under
Europe,
80%. And if you want to try Frank, just
think
click the link
I
below
would
in the
have a hard
description.
time.
So now that you have a high
Hello
margin
Frank.
offer, you're probably asking,
This tool is gonna decide whether you're gonna be bankrupt in 3 years or thrive with your business. Okay, well, what's the name of the tool? Hello Frank. So fucking funny, dude. Okay. Well, wait, guys. Sell before you build. I know that approach, and it's called the Wild Wild West. There's like a name for it, and there's even the books about it. And it's so American, so Western kind of thing, maybe even Chinese as well. I don't know. But anyway, so it's like there comes the difference. Basically, on 100%, that Germans, Europeans tick differently. I think they know what prototyping and all this kind of stuff is, of course, they do it and everything, but like just selling air, they always, I would say like 9 out of 10 cases, especially techies, they have the feeling like, okay, that's not right. That's not ethical correct. Yeah. Whereas these guys, they think like, yeah, that's the only way because why am I crazy and put things that like put money into something I don't even know whether it's going to be working? And I think we need to find like somewhere like a compromise, for specific, you know, culturally differently thinking people and markets. But let's see what he's going to say from his perspective, and then I'm going to put this into my perspective, and then let's see what he's gonna say because this is like really
Asking
critical. I
yourself,
mean,
like, how
he's
do I
got a
sell
point,
it?
like
Sounds
bringing
really
these
easy.
points up
That's
because
what we
they
need to
are
learn
quite
next.
critical
Step number
points.
3 is
I
pre-sell your
mean,
solution.
applause,
Don't
applause.
build
Probably one of the
and
reasons
then
I'm
pray you
watching
can
this guy
sell it.
for so long.
Most people build companies, spend
All
money,
right.
hire
All right. At this point, I'm not a legal expert or whatever. I don't even know if that's allowed to do in Germany or Europe or whatever countries. I don't even know. I would have to dig into that. Like probably ask ChatGPT. Ask the AI. You don't need a lawyer anymore. Just ask the AI. Because this is, of course, it's like a dream for you as an entrepreneur. You take like 7 million orders. Like people already, can't wait to spend 7 million bucks on you, and then you start actually producing the thing. Of course, yeah. But I don't know what are the legal implications of that, like on the specific markets and countries, because they might have different, legal frameworks for this kind of like sales style.
folks, and they don't even have an order. They don't have a customer. They don't have any proof that the customer wants your offer. I have never in my life ever started a company where I didn't pre-sell it first. Period, full stop. Every software company I've pre-sold, every service company I've pre-sold, every coaching company I've pre-sold.
All
I
right,
actually was
so
involved in the
if you do that,
largest
you need to
physical
keep the
hardware
money so you can
crowdfunding
pay it
offer for
back.
a
I
product
get
called
that.
Lomi,
Okay,
where
so
we
don't
sold, I
invest in
think, $7
Bitcoin,
million worth of
Keep it
product
on a savings
before it was
account.
ever made.
Right,
Crowdfunding is
okay, I
a
got that.
multi-billion dollar
So
market,
here,
and they
Dan
pre-sell.
Martell, you see my biceps? Like it's like a little bit harder than yours. I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
before they actually physically develop any hardware and deliver it to the market. If you think about it, just even in like AI automation space, people hire consultants all the time, prepay them 50% for the opportunity before they even show up to start doing the work. This is kind of normal. I remember one time I was hearing about this new venue that opened up in New York City, and they were wondering if people wanted to go to a cheese museum. So they pre-sold a bunch of tickets to see if anybody had an interest in going to a cheese museum. Luckily, they sold so many tickets, they definitely opened the doors. But I heard the person didn't even have a lease sign for the location. So when you bought the ticket, the location said TBD. That's called pre-selling. And if they wouldn't have sold anything, they just wouldn't have signed a lease. They would have gave the money back for all the people that bought the tickets. Easy peasy. You can do the same thing for your AI company. So to really have this land, I'm going to make this super simple.
I don't want everybody.
We're going to do a 5-day AI assisted pre-selling sprint. Day one is you have.
I need to make a screenshot. Come on. I don't want this for free. I don't want this for free, Dan Martell. I want that like...
have to draft your one-page offer. So I'm going to give you the steps on what needs to be in there with examples. Take what I say, put it in ChatGPT and give it your specific example. It'll write this for you. So the first is we have to lead with an outcome. The outcome is what you're selling. So using the example from earlier, like helping people get an appointments, you could say, I can help you get 10 qualified appointments over the next 30 days without you, the customer, having to answer one single phone call. That's the outcome. Then I want to define my unique mechanism, essentially like what makes you different. What is it about how you do it that's different from other people they might be getting calls from selling them AI automation? So you would say we use our dials to deal system, see we named it, that answers, qualifies, and books appointments while you sleep or you're working on your business. That's the value prop. The next section is we have to create scarcity and urgency because people won't make a decision if you don't give them a reason to. So you'll also say, once you read, just let me know if you have any questions or if you're in. Because I only got a few spots to start with new customers. See, the are you in being last presupposes they're ready to go, and it doesn't leave them with, do you have any questions? Oftentimes we lose sales because we give the objection to the buyer to ask us. It's kind of wild to watch. Again, just write this into ChatGPT and it'll help you create that offer. Then we have to create some kind of risk reversal. Most people would buy if there's some level of guarantee. So you could say something like, get your first appointment scheduled in the first 7 days or your money back. Essentially, there's no risk to that. So I've spent years refining this process, testing and tweaking offers that actually convert, and I've distilled it all into a simple plug and play template. And to make this so easy for you to apply on the things we've covered today, I'm going to give it to you for free. So just click the link in the description below and grab it and start building an irresistible offer in minutes. Day 2 is build a list. Now we have to do the research.
Like included recently. I guess like the same tool wouldn't have been the same like 2 years ago, so there's no harm done. I don't really have the feeling of having missed
So I've
out
spent
on
years
lot.
refining
Maybe
this process,
not,
testing and tweaking offers
nobody
that
is
actually
using
convert,
to do,
and
like,
I've distilled it
what's it
all
called,
into a
emailing a
simple
lot.
plug and play
And-
template. And to make this
and,
so
and
easy
this
for you
tool,
to apply on the things we've covered today, I'm going to give it to you for free.
I don't know how
So just
many
click the link
languages,
in the description
like
below and grab it and start building an
100%. Like,
irresistible
I
offer
couldn't have
in
done it
minutes.
any better
Day 2
manually.
is build a
Like,
list. Now we have to do the research for the companies that we think
and
would be.
in theory, if you do the infrastructure correctly and you scale up slowly and you do it in the correct way, and I'm in some mastermind learning exactly how that's done, like on a really large scale, like you could like send like easily like 100,000 emails per day with a tool that is that intelligent. What the hell? I mean, all you need is like
Ideal customers to
1%
buy from. See, most people get discouraged because they don't have enough people
actually
to talk
buying
to.
your thing.
If you start with at least
Out of
100 target
100,000, that's like 1,000 people per day.
companies, and you have all the information, the numbers, the emails, who they are, their
maybe
information
not
on
1%,
LinkedIn, all that
maybe
stuff,
just
then your brain doesn't be like,
1%
oh
reply.
no, this person didn't answer my call,
So anyway,
or
we
they
tested
didn't
it on
reply
a
to my
small
email. The cool
list,
part
like
is we actually can
100,
use AI to
800
build
people,
our
1,000
list.
people.
So I want you to open up
And
AI
one
and just
list,
say, find
we
me
have like
100
2%, and the
people
other list
that are
has
like
like
your perfect
5%
customer, the
for
person we
price,
talked about earlier that would
response
buy
rate,
from you easily,
which
right?
is
That boring
huge
business
for
that has
cold
the
emails.
pain. The pain is the thing you're going to solve for them, right?
It is
So if it's
insane.
like
It
not
is
being
truly
able to
insane
take
what's out
calls
there.
and you just give it some
And
direction, and tell it to
I
go
feel
on
like I need
LinkedIn for your
to, I don't
city
know,
to find potential people that might be a
inject
target
myself like
customer.
some
So
caffeine every
then
day
you tell
to,
it to save it in a
having
Google
to sleep,
Sheet
so I don't need
and
to
then
sleep so much,
write
so I can
a
actually
personalized
have more time to
snippet
work on this stuff.
for you to copy paste and use in your call or your email to that person. So all the heavy lifting or the fear of like, how do I get this person to respond to my email? The AI will write you that snippet. Or what do I say when I call? Have it write the cold call intro when you call.
I mean, I wasn't talking about Atlas.com. I was talking about Instantly, but that's for emails, and Atlas is basically for calling. I have no idea if that's like solid or valid or whatever. Especially for other markets. We're talking, the video is about other markets, applying it to other markets, because I know for sure a lot of things working in Australia or New Zealand or UK or US or I don't know, Scandinavia or like Argentina, and do not work in other markets, But he's been mentioning now the third time this Atlas thing. It's probably his own software, but I don't even care. But I really need to I need to note that down, man. Atlas, Atlas, Atlas. It's actually easy to remember because you have this like you one ad that you're constantly thrown at the moment is this meet Katie. You know that one? Like meet Katie. Meet Katie, meet Katie, like really annoying ad. This seems to be something very similar. And okay, man, I take you for 100%. I'm gonna have a look into Atlas, man. If this is like so totally substituting like, stupid calling, we go for it. Mm. The 9-box model rocket selling system. There's more and more and more and more. Like this is the thing, like jumping to a bloody red hole. I just want to get started and do shit. I'm just like this super impatient entrepreneur kind of like type. And I'm not the big reader and the big studier, and like I'm not the academic whatever type. I'm like I need to let's get going. With another freaking 9-folder system, I need to
Based
consume
on
and learn.
something it found
Ah,
online.
Jesus,
Do you see how much time this
follow
will
the
save you?
process,
Day
man.
3 and 4, now we got to reach out to buyers. So here's a cold call script you can use to get people to respond and buy from you. It's very simple. Now, freestyle it, play with it. There's no script that's just copy paste, read it like a freaking robot. It won't work. Okay, so when I call, I'll say something like, hey, quick one, Bob. I help other plumbers get customers to
People
buy
want
over the phone without
experts.
having to take
This
any
is
more
probably the
calls.
reason
I'm opening
why
up
this
10
company
pilot
here is
spots and the
called
investment's only $5,000. Do you want me to send the
Scaling
one pager?
Experts.
That one pager is the offer sheet that we created on the first
I
step.
was,
To
I
make this
think I
super
had a good
simple,
idea,
just go
but
use your
but
atlas.com
my
to
brain.
do the cold calls on your behalf and book calls for you,
Yeah,
or have it
excellent.
answer any qualifying
And I think this
inbound
is
calls.
like
So essentially use the
really,
AI that I
this
just
is
talked
gonna
about
be
to help you in
through
your
AI,
business.
and I
Isn't that
didn't
wild?
really knew it to that extent at the big when I was actually doing this company or this brand name. Um, it's gonna be like the term expert is gonna be it's gonna be elevated to such a degree with this whole AI thing, because the mega trend for the next mid and long term, like the entire job market, everything is going to be towards like that. Everybody's going to sort of like becoming his own expert into something, because all the junior, all the like the repetitive, the low, the non-expert jobs, they're all going to be basically replaced by AI. So the only type of jobs where you actually can make some substantial money, some significant, make your own significant money, is going to be expert jobs. The expert jobs that basically use the AI to do certain things. So in my vision, in 5, 10, 15 years, there are only going to be like experts out there. That's the only job that where you can sufficiently make some money. So the top 5 or 10% of the society, maybe, until that point also maybe goes to like AI is going to take everything
five
and take over, but
is doing those
not going to
calls to
talk
close the
about that
deal. To
doom and
do that, I'm
gloom.
going to
you
unpack
know
my
who
proprietary
knows what's in
rocket
20 years?
selling
I don't
system,
care.
which is a 9 box
um
model to help you do that
I don't
call
care because
that's going to
it's
get
impossible
people
to
to
know.
buy 50%
But
of the time.
like the
You
midterm
just
thing, like
follow the process.
and then you're gonna have all the rest, and they're really gonna be in deep shit because they probably need to then live off, I don't know, welfare or something, like a minimum salary where they can't move, they can't travel, they can, they have like a miserable, a horrible life probably, you know. So there's gonna be like a huge, like split between and the super rich and then the experts and then all the rest who are basically just in deep shit, you know. And I think there won't be like a huge middle
Even people
classes.
that have never
I think
sold
they will all
before,
go
if you
away.
don't skip these 9
And so
steps,
like,
can
okay,
get people to buy.
this is
Step
a
number
really,
one
really
is the
important point.
setup. The whole rapport
And
thing about where
and
you're from
there's a
and what do you
time
like in
frame,
your sports team, that's
and
gone.
that time
People
frame is
want
not that
experts.
long.
An
Especially if
expert
you're like
sets
young
up
and
the
something, like,
agenda. They audition the buyer.
and
They say, look, we're
if
not for
you're young
everybody. I'm
and
going to
you don't
figure out
have
if I
rich
can be helpful.
parents or some other resources already like given towards you, like via inheritance or whatever, and in many instances, like governments want to even change that because of tax even inheritages and everything like that, which is like totally crazy. Because then everybody was born like starts from scratch. Except obviously the super rich, they are always exception, But all the middle class I'm talking about, the wow, I mean, it's definitely gonna be like a super, super, super tight pyramid. That's gonna come into, I would say, like almost every society. There's no vase. The vase, like the big middle class, and then like some on the top, some on the bottom, and the big middle class. The vase is gonna turn into a super tight, like almost pyramid, almost like a spear pyramid. And that's a valid point, dude. I mean, especially if you're like young and you start more or less from scratch because, your parents are just like, cleaners or whatever, So you need to really get, strap on tight and go and get it. Otherwise, you're gonna be like left behind. That's for sure. Okay, guys, I need to stop here. I'm gonna continue it. I'm gonna make a second part because we're already like 50 minutes in, and it's 3 p.m. and I need to go and do something else. It's been taking a lot longer than I thought. It is actually a quite intense video. I'm really positively surprised by this. It is on a meta level, but it is talking about some really, really, really important points here. And yeah. I'm gonna have this download, and I'm gonna give you all guys also some feedback to this download, always with the perspective of like different European markets, if that's possible or whatever. So this is like for Europeans, and yeah, talk to you soon, guys. Talk to you soon, guys, and I hope if you like this kind of like me ripping apart these like super guru videos and trying to make sense of it for like the normal people, like in other markets, like European markets, like Germany and so on, then give me a thumb up to this video or give me something in my comments here if that's something you want to know more my perspective because I got like tons of years of experience with these markets in Europe. Okay, talk to you soon, guys. See you later. Bye bye.
If I can tell you how that looks. If I can't, I'll tell you that as soon as possible. Step 2 is learn about the customer. Who are they? How did they get started? What do they sell? How much do they sell it for? What is the problem they're trying to solve? Like, learn more about who they are as an individual so that when you present your solution, they feel like it's customized and personalized. The third